The planet Galeth was a graveyard of stone and silence. Once a thriving capital of a lost empire, it now sat on the edge of obscurity, its ruins picked apart by scavengers, mercenaries, and the occasional foolhardy archaeologist. Captain Darius Holt was neither of those things. He liked to call himself an opportunist. His crew, a ragtag collection of smugglers and salvagers, called him reckless, arrogant, and in possession of a talent for getting them into trouble. Their ship, the Iron Fong, had landed just outside the broken pillars of Galata's central fortress. Rumors spread in black market taverns across the Orion spur spoke of a sealed chamber buried deep below the ruins. Some in the ancient empire had locked away before their sudden collapse 10,000 years ago. Some said it was a weapon. Others, a treasure beyond reckoning. Darius smirked at both ideas. Whatever it is, he told his crew, it's going to make us rich. They descended into ruins, lanterns flickering against walls etched with indecipherable glyphs. Statues loomed over them, serpentine forms of alien kings and warriors whose features had long eroded into haunting shapes. After hours of descending crumbling staircases, they found it, an enormous chamber of polished obsidian, untouched by time. At its center was not a weapon nor gold, but a single statue bound in chains. It was a woman, or at least something shaped like one. Her features were alien yet eerily familiar. High cheekbones, elongated eyes, hair that seemed carved in a flowing cascade, and lips curved into a faint, cruel smile. Chains of glowing crystal wound around her wrists and ankles, pinning her to a throne of stone. Looks like someone's idea of a bad joke, muttered Vera, his second in command. Or someone really didn't want this lady getting up, another crewmate added. Darius approached the statue, lantern light dancing across its surface. Unlike the other ruins, the figure was flawless, as though carved yesterday. He touched her cheek. It was warm. Don't, hissed Vera, stepping forward. Whatever this is, it's dangerous. Darius laughed, his arrogance echoing in the vast chamber. Dangerous? It's just a rock. He leaned close, lips brushing the statue's mouth in a mocking kiss. The ground shuddered. The chains flared with blinding light, then shattered into shards that disintegrated into the air. The statue's eyelids fluttered open. They were not stone at all, but eyes that glowed like dying suns. She inhaled sharply, as though taking her first breath in 1,000 years. Her lips parted, and in a voice like silk laced with thunder, she whispered into Darius's ear, "Now you're bound to me." Middle. The crew stumbled back in terror, weapons drawn, but Darius stood frozen, locked in the alien woman's gaze. She rose from the throne, stretching as if testing muscles and used for millennia. "I am Seraphis," she declared, her voice reverberating through the chamber. "The last empress of the Dominion of Chains. And you," she touched Darius's chest, just above his heart, "belong to me now." Darius forced a laugh. "I don't belong to anyone." But when he tried to step back, his body betrayed him. His feet refused to move away from her. Panic flickered in his chest as he realized the truth. Something tethered him to her, invisible and unbreakable. The crew panicked. "Captain, let's get out of here," Vera shouted, grabbing his arm. But as soon as she tried to pull him, she was hurled backward by a crackle of energy, slamming against a far wall. Seraphis smiled. "He cannot leave me. The bond is sealed." The crew fired blasters, but Seraphis raised a single hand. The bolts froze in midair, dissolving into sparks. With a flick of her wrist, the men were disarmed and thrown to the ground. "You mortals amuse me," she said, "but you are irrelevant." The crew scrambled from the chamber, leaving Darius alone with her. Back aboard the Iron Fong, chaos erupted. The crew wanted to leave, to abandon their captain to whatever curse he had unleashed. But Vera, loyal despite her fury, refused. "He's our captain," she said. "Like it or not, we go back for him." But by the time they returned to the chamber, it was empty. Darius awoke later in the ruins above, Seraphis walking calmly beside him. Her presence was intoxicating. Every glance, every word felt like a chain around his thoughts. He hated it. "What did you do to me?" he demanded. "I gave you purpose," she said simply. "The bond ties us. You will serve me as my warden, my voice, my sword." "I'm nobody's servant," he spat. Her lips curved into a mocking smile. "You already are." Over the following days, strange things began to happen. Darius could feel Seraphis's emotions as though they were his own. When she grew angry, fire burned in his chest. When she was amused, laughter danced in his throat. Worse, he discovered he could not stray far from her. An invisible tether pulled him back if he tried. The crew was unsettled. Some demanded they abandon her on Galith. Others whispered about killing her before she regained her full strength. But none dared, for Darius himself stood in their way, compelled to protect her even against his own will. "Captain," Vera whispered one night, "she's using you. Can't you see that?" "Of course I can," he snapped. But even as he said it, Seraphis entered the room, and his words caught in his throat. She smiled knowingly. He understands, but the bond cannot be undone. As they traveled through the stars, Seraphis began to reveal fragments of her past. She spoke of the dominion of chains, an empire that spanned galaxies, built on conquest and submission. She had been its ruler, feared and worshipped. But when she sought to ascend to godhood, her people betrayed her. They bound her in living stone, sealing her beneath Galith, so she could never rise again. "They feared my power," she said. "But you, by awakening me, you have restored it." Darius clenched his fists. "Then unbind me. Take your power and go." She touched his cheek, her gaze almost tender. "You don't understand. The bond does not weaken me. It completes me. Through you, I will rise again." Word of Seraphis's return spread faster than Darius imagined. Whispers reached the ears of galactic authorities, syndicates, even cults who had worshipped the Dominion in secret. Soon, ships began shadowing the Iron Fong, emissaries demanding Seraphis surrender, or pledging themselves to her cause. Everywhere they went, chaos followed. The crew began to fracture under the weight of fear and temptation. Some left at the first port, unwilling to be dragged further into madness. Others began to see Seraphis as a chance for power. Darius, caught between loyalty to his crew and the chains binding him to her, felt his will eroding. Nights blurred into days, his mind haunted by her whispers. "You were meant for this. You were chosen. You are mine." And a dark, traitorous part of him began to believe it. The breaking point came on the desert world of Arction, for the galactic fleet cornered them, demanding Seraphis's immediate surrender. Darius stood at the bridge window, hands trembling. His crew begged him to give her up. But when the fleet opened fire, he found himself moving before he could think, activating the ship's weapons, defending her with everything the Iron Fong had. His crew screamed in protest, but Seraphis only laughed, her voice filling the ship with an intoxicating joy. The battle left half the fleet in ruins. The Iron Fong limped away, bloodied but alive. Darius collapsed afterward, horrified at what he had done. "I killed them, all because of you." Seraphis knelt beside him, stroking his hair. "No, beloved, you killed them because they stood in the way of destiny." Ending. Weeks passed, and Darius's resistance weakened. He was no longer sure where his will ended and hers began. He hated her, yet he could not deny the strange connection between them. The way she made him feel alive, powerful, unstoppable. But Vera had not given up. Quietly, she researched every scrap of information about the Dominion of Chains. And finally, she found it. The bond could be broken, but only through death. Either the Empress or the one bound to her. She confronted Darius in the hangar bay. "It's the only way," she said, tears in her eyes. "I'll do it if you can't." But before she could act, Seraphis appeared. "You would kill him to end me?" she asked softly. Touching, but futile. Darius stepped between them, torn in two. He looked at Vera, loyal, desperate, his last tether to himself, and then at Seraphis, ancient, terrible, yet bound to him in ways deeper than flesh. For a long moment, silence hung heavy. Then Darius made his choice. With trembling hands, he turned his blaster not on Seraphis, but on himself. "Better me than the galaxy," he whispered. Seraphis's eyes widened in shock as he pulled the trigger. The shot rang out. Darius fell, the bond shattering like glass. Seraphis screamed, her form flickering, unraveling into shards of light. Without him, her anchor to the living world was gone. She dissolved into nothingness, her voice a fading echo. Bound forever. Vera dropped to her knees beside Darius, tears streaming. But to her astonishment, his chest still rose and fell. Barely, somehow impossibly, he clung to life. The bond was gone. When he finally opened his eyes days later, he whispered only one thing. She's not gone. Not completely. A piece of her is still inside me. And as he stared into the void beyond the medbay window, he wondered, not with fear, but with a grim certainty, when Seraphis would rise again.